Hello again. We have a special guest, Dr. Daniela Farkas, and the special subject, sugar, the silent killer. Why, Dr. Farkas, the sugar is the silent killer?
Well, it is a silent killer because we don't hear screaming and it's sweet and it is addictive. It's very addictive. It's more addictive than cocaine
Wow.
and it literally kills us. Actually, there was a test where little mice were fed water with cocaine or water with sugar at Liberdol, meaning that they were able to drink whatever. And then they were offered only one, either one or the other. And everybody went to sugar. Nobody cared. I mean, not nobody, but the sugar was by far the preferred uh, food versus cocaine, which is so addictive. Yes, so sugar is very addictive and very sweet, and it kills us. It literally kills us. So it's called silent killer because it is.
Wow. Could you shed some light on the high fructose issue and why excessive consumption of high fructose corn syrup and other sources of fructose is a growing concern for public health?
Yes. High fructose corn syrup is a substance that was isolated about 30 years ago, and it became the main source on many foods that we consume, from cereals in the morning to breads to even in meat. I saw high fructose corn syrup to give extra taste to the meat in sauce, in ketchup, in you name it. Wherever you look, high fructose corn syrup. One of the reason is because it's very cheap. Very. It costs about 10 cents per gallon. And it is extremely convenient because it does not spoil. You could have it in the garage. No bugs are gonna eat it. They are smarter than us.
No better.
Yes, and it has a long shelf life, so it is convenient for food industry to use it. It's very cheap. It gives a good taste, and the reason it is so bad is because no molecule in the body except the liver could metabolize it. So when you consider somebody middle age that is a little bit with extra pounds, chances of that person having overtaxed liver, it's kind of high because liver is the organ that detoxifies, number one detoxifier in the body, and it's very taxed. So when you put a chemical into the body that only the liver will be able to detoxify, you are overtaxing the liver to the point that many times the liver just doesn't care anymore, or it's not capable of working to the amount of requests that we are putting on it. And this is the reason high fructose is so taxing, because of the chemicals that it produces if the liver cannot detoxify it properly. If a very small amount of fructose enters the body, like through a fruit or two fruits a day, which fruits have fructose in it, um, it is easily metabolized. And also, a fruit does not only have corn syrup in it, it has a lot of uh, phytochemicals, it has a lot of fibers, it has vitamins. So it is something that only the liver detoxify, but it's also combined with unbelievable good stuff. And if it's only one or two fruits a day, it is absolutely no problem. But when we eat, like in everything that we eat, high fructose corn syrup, the liver is not a happy camper, and it will let us know that it's not sustainable for the liver to do this long term. No way.
Oh,
Sooner or later, the problems are gonna come.
yeah. What are the primary sources of sugar in our diets, and how can individuals identify and limit their intake of hidden sugars in processed foods?
Uh, the main source of sugar that we consume is in the form of carbohydrates. Now, in fruit, for example, the sugar is a molecule of glucose linked to a molecule of fructose. What the body does, it just chop the link and it has two different molecules. One that is glucose, where every single cell in the body is able to metabolize, and one of fructose that only the liver will be able to metabolize. In the form of bread, for example, carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, there is not one glucose and one fructose, but it's one glucose linked to another glucose. So all the body has to do is to chop those little links and has individual molecules of glucose that enters the bloodstream that does absolutely havoc into the body. Would you like to know what exactly it does once it enters the body?
Oh my god. Yeah, very, very interesting, and scary as well.
It's scary. Uh,
Yeah.
of the uh, reason that we should limit the amount of sugar we consume is that number one, it causes inflammation. So, inflammation by far in the body is caused number one by sugar. Number two, it is the only food for cancer. Cancer cannot live on anything but sugar and a derivative of sugar, which is glutathione, but that also comes from a metabolite of sugar. So it's the food for cancer. Another thing is that glucose is converted especially for long term high sugar into the blood. It's a reaction where the glucose is metabolized to sucrose, which will be like a cement that is deposited into inside the blood vessel. Well, if you have a large blood vessel like around the arms, it's not a big deal. But imagine the blood vessels that are around the eyes or the kidney or the feet, and this reaction takes place. It coats the inside of the blood vessel with this substance that forms like a cement. So when the diameter of a very small blood vessel it's coated with sucrose, it will cut the circulation to that organ. And this is the reason, like for example, diabetics go blind because the sugar literally kills the eyes, also the kidney, also the heart, and also the feet. Another food is that the sugar is the preferred food for a lot of bacteria, bad bacteria in the body. Another one, it causes stiffness in between the cells. So once the cells are stiffened, it's like cemented. They do not communicate freely with each other. They cannot exchange information and products between one cell to the other, which renders the tissue ineffective. And a very, very, very big reason we shouldn't consume sugar is because it forms something called advanced glycosylation product or age, which actually ages us. Uh, the, that destroys the microvascular, macrovascular, and yes, it's something that it's definitely a killer. It also causes cavities. It also decreases the production of collagen. And somebody that's in a high sugar diet, you will see it on the face. They are full of wrinkles. They look like a dry prune because that's what it does. It glycosylates and causes age or and glycosylated end products.
Yeah. Um, Could you explain the intricate process by which the body converts carbohydrates into sugar and how this impacts our blood sugar levels and overall health?
Yes. So, like we mentioned, the carbohydrate it's a chain or chains of glucose links that link together. It is absolutely nothing for the body to get those chains and chop the individual molecules into glucose. That's why it's very wise to look at carbohydrates that have low glycemic index, where together with the glucose, there are other products like fiber that slows down the absorption of sugar into the blood. Um, that's how the body converts it. It's almost an instant process. It starts actually in the mouth. It doesn't reach the stomach by the time they are chopped, and um, it is uh, uh, it is facilitated by an enzyme. It's called amylase, and it's extremely um, uh, abundant in the saliva, not only in the stomach and so on. Um, how does it? How does the sugar affects the body? The main reaction is that it pretty much cuts the circulation to adjacent cell. Imagine if this happens in the brain. If one neuron connection to the next one would be compromised by sugar, that person will shrink the brain in something that is called Alzheimer's. This is one of the cases of dementia, Alzheimer's. People say, I don't see well. Well, how much sugar did you have? How much glycosylation went around the eye? What do? We check the glycosylation amount in the last 3 months because a person could easily fool the doctor by not eating sugar for 3 and lowering their blood sugar for the test. But possible to fool the doctor when the doctor checks the amount of glycosylation on, like for example, red blood cells. That test is called hemoglobin A1C because we check how much glycosylation or how much sugaring went on the red blood cell, which is a cell that usually lives about 120 days. How much glycosylation happened on one molecule or on a group of molecules. And we give it a number. If the number is 5, 5.1, 5.3, that's good. It would be awesome if it would be less than 5 or up to 5. If it is 6, already we tell the patient you are in honeymoon with diabetes. And if you pass 6, we say, honey, you should go on pills because that will help you survive the attacks that are coming in the form of glycosylation in the liver under the name of diabetes. We live in a society when we have abundant food and we just do not have to stop. We eat until we eat ourselves to death. And um, the body is not equipped to deal with excess food like this. For the last few millions years that we are on the planet, we never had food like this. I mean, we really never had food to eat all the time. Like, except when we sleep, we eat. Like, stomach is like sick and tired of processing so much food, but definitely the excess food kills us. And it's because the main reason is because of the excess carbohydrates and excess sugar. I mean, to the point that a person eats like 150 pounds of sugar in the form of carbs and sugar a year. This is insane.
Yep,
Yeah.
indeed. What happens to the body when it is exposed to excess sugar over prolonged periods, and how can this lead to various health conditions and diseases?
Um, when the body is exposed to sugar for a long, long time, what is gonna happen? It will be unable. to excrete the extra sugar. Um, Please give me a second. You could talk, audience, only for a second. Somebody.
Yeah,
Yes,
of course. And in this time, I remember you that Dr. Daniela Farkas is the author of the book The End of Aging. This book is available on Amazon. So if you want to know what it's about in this book, you can buy this.
sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Farkas, for your time. We know you are very, very, very busy, and we talk about the sugar, the silent killer.
Island kid. Yes. Another issue that we have with the sugar is that it glycosylates not only the red blood cells, but it glycosylates, for example, muscles and ligaments and tendons. And by doing that, it renders that particular tendon or that particular ligament ineffective. So you would become stiff. You wouldn't be able to move that part of the joint because it becomes like cemented. And I have people here that come in, and what on earth to do with them? You cannot tell a patient, what are you doing, to get to 300 pounds? What are you thinking? The desire to eat, it's so strong that they know it's bad for them. It's just like cigarettes. They just don't have the willpower to stop because it's so addictive. And it's so addictive because it is, like I said, more addictive than cocaine. We are growing a generation where 1 in 3 kids are obese. This is gonna be the first generation where the parents gonna outlive the children, and this is because of the way we eat. And the main culprit is sugar.
Oh, so sad. From your expertise, could you highlight some of the most alarming and significant damages that sugar inflicts on the body, both in the short term and in the long run?
In the short term, the highest and the most dangerous um, effect is the glycosylation. When when the sugar has this reaction, when it glycates, or when it puts sugar uh, on a fat or on a molecule like protein, it's extremely, extremely damaging. People don't realize, and they don't feel bad when it's only a little bit, and it is like little by little every day. By the time they get to come to me, like for example, they don't have good circulation and I need to cut a limb, uh, they feel like, oh my God, God is punishing me. No, nobody punishes them. It's just that they ate wrong. They ate very wrong, not only wrong. This is number one. But long term, it causes cancer, it causes neuropathy, it causes problems with circulation, it causes obesity, it causes cavity, it causes Alzheimer's, it causes dementia, it causes excess lack of energy because the body, in trying to get rid of all those toxins, it's gonna use the energy that should be allocated to a person well-being and running and you know doing stuff. It is allocated to try to get rid of all the toxins that are produced by the sugar. It This is, I think, the worst. But for example, the new theory now is that cancer is not a genetic disease in the sense of a mutation. Most of them, like 99.98%, is because of what we eat. The new research that is coming from Harvard, it says that if a person that has cancer, even in the metastasis stage, like when it's all over the body, if they stop eating sugar completely, like zero sugar, you starve the cancer to death. No medication, no nothing. Only the way you eat. I mean, this is so incredible for somebody to be able to literally die because of eating and knowing that, and literally try to reverse and be successful, up to different stages. But it's amazing what the diet could do. And this is recent. This study that came from Harvard, I think, came in 2022. It's not old at all, and it's extremely alarming. It is extremely alarming because once the sugar gets to such an elevated level for a long time, it will damage the cells inside. It will damage the DNA, and it will damage the function of the cell. So, of course, when you're going to look at the DNA, you're going to see mutations. But the mutations were not caused by the fact that the person was born with mutations. It will be caused by the fact that the excess sugar was consumed for too long. So, yes, we were involved in a study where people that were adopted, like identical twins that had the same genetic material, were separated at birth. One ended up in one family, one in the other family, and this was done, I don't know with how many groups of twins, identical twins, and they found out that if the family in which they landed had a grandmother died of colon cancer, the mother died of colon cancer, surprise, surprise, the child, which is adopted, would end up with the same disease. While the other twin, identical twin that ended up in another family, they had, for example, a very different disease, and he will inherit the disease that was in that particular family, which proves that the lifestyle contributes to the patient's well being and the patient's disease in this case.
Wow, very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Farkas. It was a pleasure to make this discussion about the sugar, which is the silent killer, that everyday sugar, everyday silent killer. So stop eating sugar. That's the message.
That's the message, or control, eat, but not to the point that in an abundant population, abundant culture, people are killing themselves with something that is sweet and good in nature.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Farkas. Thank you for your
It's
time.
a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.